Good morning. Warm welcome to all of you to Coral Gables Congregational Church. We are a part of the United Church of Christ, and we extend to you this welcome that no matter who you are or where you are on your life journey, you are welcome here. So a very special welcome to any visitors or guests who are with us for the first time today. I hope that you were welcomed warmly outside and received your blue welcome bag. And if not, please join us in the fellowship hall following our service, and be sure to go to the visitor table there to get one. And also a very warm welcome to all of you who are worshiping with us from actually around the world. You are our wonderful virtuers, as we call you, our virtual congregation, and we are always so honored to have you. And if you're worshiping with us for the first time today, we'd also love to send you a welcome bag, so please sign in and give us your address, and we'll be sure to get that off to you. I already mentioned after service today, we will have our Connection Cafe in the fellowship hall, which is right through these double doors to my right. Come and enjoy some refreshments and be connected with one another through some conversation and getting to know folks that perhaps you've never met before. I do just want to say a special word of Thanksgiving today to these young people. In just a few moments, you are going to be hearing from them. And I'm always so touched by your experiences, your words, but most of all, your presence. So thank you so much for being here today. And I, for one, can't wait to hear what you have to tell us. So congratulations on all of your efforts and your work in Guatemala this summer. This morning also, as part of our 100th anniversary commemoration, we are lifting up our Spanish language worship. Here at Gables UCC, we are privileged to have two worshiping congregations in the languages of their origin or preference. So today we are going to lift up our Spanish language congregation under the leadership of Pastor Myrilette. And then this afternoon at 3 o'clock, our German language congregation is going to gather for their annual back to school and back to church service. So we are so honored, aren't we, to have such diversity in our church. I would invite you to take a look at your bulletin. So many upcoming events and programs and opportunities that are taking place here. And do be sure to join us next week for what will be a joyful time, but also a very poignant time as we say goodbye to our beloved Pastor Aaron as he goes on to a new calling in ministry. But please gather. We're going to have a great time and the opportunity to express our gratitude and appreciation. Well, rest of the announcements are in the bulletin. And I do hope that together we will celebrate with the presence of the Holy this day. This is indeed the day that our God has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it as we gather now in a time of worship.
Oh
We invite you to stand as you are able for our call to worship. We are the body of Christ, those who remind the world of a love which knows no ending and which is given in compassion and with grace. We gather here to worship the God who calls all people towards justice and demonstrates the life in the everlasting example of Jesus.
Nosotros somos el cuerpo de Cristo, reunidos en celebración y compartiendo todos los dones que podemos diseminar en un mundo expectante.
Together, life can be enlarged and enhanced, bearing witness to the creativity of God and the wonder of the Holy Spirit. There is a celebration here today. We will greet each other, songs will be sung, reflections will be spoken, and joy will be shared.
Vengan, únanse a nosotros. Todos estamos invitados, nadie está excluido. Nosotros somos invitados del Creador, invitados del Hijo, invitados del Espíritu Santo. La paz de Cristo esté con ustedes. Compartamos el abrazo de la paz. Not our choice. This is part of our Hispanic community. We are very diversity. We come from diversity and different countries. We have people from Nicaragua, Colombia, Panama, Puerto Rican, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Argentina, Chile, and we have two guys that work here in Miami with us. It's a privilege to be part of this different and diversity community because everybody are different and we give to the community different gifts, different tradition, different food, and different rhythms. And we want to share with you this morning a song that is part of our group. You can translate the... ¿Puedes traducir el himno rapidito?
Yep. So it's in essence the theme of the church. No matter where you are in life's journey, you are welcome here. If you come from afar or you are from near, this is your home, and we party. God knows you. You are my brother, my sister. Be welcome here and give me your hand.
Dos veces. Dios te conoce, eres mi hermano, sé bienvenido, te doy mi mano, dame tu mano, téngase lejos o de bien cerca, esta es tu casa y hacemos fiesta, Dios te conoce, eres mi hermana, sé bienvenido, te doy mi mano, dame tu mano, téngase lejos. Esta es tu casa y hacemos fiesta, Dios te conoce. Continuamos, hermanos y hermanas. Leemos en el Evangelio de Lucas, capítulo 5, versos del 1 al 11. Aconteció que estando Jesús junto al lago de Genezaret, el gentío se agolpaba sobre él para oír la palabra de Dios. Vio 2 barcas que estaban cerca de la orilla del lago. Los pescadores habían descendido de ella y lavaban sus redes. Entró en una de aquellas barcas, la cual era de Simón, y le rogó que se apartara de tierra un poco. Luego, sentándose, enseñaba desde la barca a la multitud. Cuando terminó de hablar, dijo a Simón: boga mar adentro, echad vuestras redes para pescar. Respondiendo Simón le dijo: Maestro, toda la noche hemos estado trabajando y nada hemos pescado, pero en tu palabra echaré la red. Cuando lo hicieron, recogieron la cantidad de peces que su red casi se rompía. Entonces hicieron seña a los compañeros que estaban en la otra barca para que acudieran a ayudarlos. Ellos vinieron y llenaron ambas barcas de tal manera que se hundían. Viendo esto, Simón Pedro cayó de rodillas ante Jesús diciendo: apártate de mí, Señor, porque soy hombre pecador. Por la pesca que habían hecho, el temor se había apoderado de él y de todos los que estaban con él, asimismo de Jacob y Juan, hijo de Zebedeo, que eran compañeros de Simón. Pero Jesús dijo a Simón: no temas, desde ahora serás pescador de hombres. Trajeron a la tierra las barcas y dejándolo todo, le siguieron. Esto es palabra del Señor.
Good morning. This summer, I had the honor and the joy of accompanying 25 youth and adult chaperones to the San Lucas mission in San Lucas Toliman, Guatemala. As this was my third trip to San Lucas, I was thinking, I am prepared for this. I am ready. Nothing is going to surprise me about Guatemala the third time around. Well, let me tell you, those were some famous last words, right? Of course there were surprises. Now, there were some unpleasant surprises, like a hotel room floor flooded with water after a hard afternoon rain, one of our youth getting sick from the water and vomiting in the middle of a crowded marketplace, an hour-long boat ride in the middle of a storm where we sang and laughed and all the adults prayed that we would make it back to the shore alive. We did, by the way. And then there were the more pleasant surprises. Watching the pickup game of basketball with our youth, a church in Sacramento, and local kids from San Lucas. Gathering in the evening for reflection and listening to the profound lessons learned by our young people each day. The encouragement and the help we gave one another on the construction sites, whether it was lugging a bucket of rocks up a steep hill or shoveling dirt into sandbags, bringing a new bed to a family in crisis, and seeing the tears of compassion that our young people cried as they heard the heartbreaking stories. The San Lucas mission was founded over 400 years ago, but it was only recently that the mission took on a new approach to ministry in the community, not one of proselytization or colonization, but one of compassion and solidarity. In 1963, Fathers Greg Schaefer and John Gogan and the Sisters of Notre Dame came from New Ulm, Minnesota to San Lucas Toliman to revive the mission and serve the people of rural Guatemala. Over the past 60 years, the mission has worked alongside the people of San Lucas in the areas of healthcare, education, construction, nutrition, reforestation, women's empowerment, charity, and economic justice. The 5 values that drive the mission are cultural humility, the dignity of the human person, compassionate action, transparency and accountability, and strength and delight in diversity. This morning, some of our youth and adult chaperones will reflect on their experiences in San Lucas, and you will hear these 5 values expressed in their stories. We're also going to do some singing. We sang every evening as a part of our reflection time, and these 3 songs in your bulletin were our favorites. And we're so excited to invite you all to sing along with us this morning. So friends, I invite you to get comfortable in your chair, quiet your hearts and your minds, and listen to these stories from our Guatemala travelers. Stories about the amazing ways that God is working in their lives and in San Lucas.
Good morning. Guatemala is a wonderfully magical place, and traveling there on this mission was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. The beautiful landscapes, the looming volcanoes, the heartwarming people, all left a special mark on me, as did the friendships I deepened among my fellow missionaries. This mission trip unexpectedly brought to light for me the beautiful threads that connect generations and cultures across time and space. During our visit to the Women's Center in San Lucas Toliman, I was initially struck by the sublime beauty of its physical surroundings, but it was the vibrant spirit of the remarkable women who shared their rich culture with us that truly moved me. As they taught us the way of their ancestors, it was as if we were transported through time. While making tortillas from scratch under the direction of these native women, I was reminded of my own abuela, who grew up in rural Colombia. When I was a child, she would often call me into the kitchen to help her make traditional arepas. In fact, she taught me a technique for shaping the corn pancakes similar to the method presented by the instructors at the Women's Center, thus passing down a cherished tradition from her own culture. Our visits to the Women's Center also revealed some more of the mundane aspects of traditional daily life. Our guides there showed us how local women do laundry in the absence of washing machines using a pila, a concrete cistern divided into numerous basins used to wash clothes. When we took our turns at washing clothes, I realized how long it took to wash just one article of clothing, and couldn't conceive how long it would take to wash an entire family's clothes. Again, I was reminded of my abuelita and her stories from her childhood. It was a profound reminder that these seemingly mundane activities hold a plethora of stories that bind us across time and space and place. Learning about the culture of the Mayan people of San Lucas, Toliman, and seeing the extent that their traditional cultures has been passed down through the generations left an ineffable impression on me. It is truly a testament to the resilience and strength of a community that values its heritage and works together to pass down its culture through generations.
One of the major aspects of our trip was the work that we did in the community. This work consisted of multiple days of hard labor that we had to endure. The first day in particular was rather difficult and tiring, as my group had the task of carrying many very heavy bags of dirt up a steep hill to the drop site where they were building a new house for just one of the many families deeply in need. While this work was no fun task, and I was ready to fall to the ground and take a long nap by the end of it, I can easily say that it was an amazing experience that I would do over in a heartbeat if given the chance. Because despite the fatigue and pain we felt from it, we all felt just as much happiness and satisfaction being able to assist in such a great cause. However, while we felt good doing this work, we also realized just how much work still needs to be done, as there is a list of thousands of Guatemalan families that are still in need and searching for a roof over their head. This fact has not and will not ever leave my mind, and it has motivated me to already think about going back there and doing the work we did again, as well as encouraging others to take the trip as well and assist this amazing country with amazing people and incredible culture. Thank you.
I grew up in a small town. I remember one of my favorite bakeries, the owners lived right down the street from us, and it was amazing. And being in Guatemala felt a lot like that. Even after a few days, everything felt so familiar, and I felt like I knew the people there. Every day I'd go to the bakery, and it was always the same people in there, and it just felt so much like being at home. In fact, everywhere in Guatemala was kind of like that. It was very welcoming. You felt like you knew the people. Every time we did work, we were working with Guatemalan people, and it just felt so collaborative, and it felt like a community, because it was. When we went to the Women's Center, we got to see new skills that people passed down from generation to generation, and even if it wasn't your own family, these skills that these people shared with anyone and anyone who wanted to learn was just such an amazing experience, and it definitely made me think about what we could bring back here to our home, being able to pass on skills like sewing and cooking and cleaning. These are things that they teach their children from a young age. Even if it's not your child, you can send them to the Women's Center and you can learn. Or even if you're not a child, you can go to the Women's Center and you can learn. And I think this is something that we should have here a little bit more, and we should learn from Guatemala about passing on stuff from generation to generation and sharing our skills. Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks. Going into this trip, I had no idea what to expect. I was unsure how to get on in the town considering I only recently gained my Spanish back and this was a completely new culture. Nevertheless, upon arriving to Guatemala City, I knew immediately I was going to fall in love. To say that the 3-hour drive from the capital to San Lucas was breathtaking would not be an overstatement. I think one of my fondest memories of the trip might be sitting in the van with Amelia, with the windows down, letting our hair fly around at the insane speeds the driver was going, because they don't have lights there apparently. It was so freeing and such a wonderful way to start our life-changing week. That moment, along with many others over those days, I would consider maybe some of the most joyful of my life so far. Looking back at my time, I really cannot say that there was one aspect I did not enjoy. I truly fell in love with the place. Most of all, what I felt the greatest connection to was the people and their culture. In my life, I've never experienced more kind, humble, and welcoming people. The most accurate word I can use to describe what I felt towards the people of the town is respect. Never would I have expected as a foreigner to be accepted into a brand new community with such open arms. There were so many special experiences I could reflect on that were true blessings, but there was one in particular that affected me the most deeply. While in the street markets doing charity shopping, we stopped at a store where outside they were selling flowers, family selling flowers. I noticed that there was a young boy sitting on the steps, so I started to talk to him in Spanish, ask him the general, what's your name, how old are you? And I learned that his name was Jorge, and he was 4 years old, and I introduced myself to him. Then he walked away to his mother and returned to me, gifting me an orange flower, coincidentally my favorite color. In that moment, I felt such overwhelming emotion because here was this child, most likely coming from poverty, gifting me, a stranger, a flower for simply talking to him. Of course, I wasn't going to accept it for free, so I tried to pay the mother, and she wouldn't let me, so instead I gave it to the boy. Then I noticed there was also a baby on these steps, and I learned it was his sister, and me, I love babies. So even though I figured it was an extremely long shot, I told the mother I'm really great with babies, and I asked if I could hold her. And to my literal and all caps astonishment, she said yes. In that moment, I felt so blessed and grateful to be experiencing something which was so beautiful and special with people I hadn't known not 2 minutes earlier, and I held the girl whose name was Dulce. Finally, we left, and I said, may God bless you, que Dios te bendiga. About an hour later, we went to visit a family of 5, a single mother who was ill and her 4 children. The week prior, they were gifted a house by the mission, so we came to deliver some basics like a bed and some food. At this point, I was still carrying the flower, and I noticed the house was completely barren, just cement blocks and a tin roof. So I gave the bright, fiery red orange flower to the mother, who handed it to one of her daughters, and when she returned a minute later, she had filled an empty glass sink candle of the Virgin Mary with water and put the flower in it. Although obviously it had nowhere near the same impact as the bed and other necessities we had just given them, it felt like such a special moment and a beautiful way to pass on the blessing given to me by the family earlier. Seeing the glass and the image of the Virgin Mary, although we don't pay tribute to her here in the same way, felt like I was seeing the presence and love of God. Across the trip, there were so many instances where I felt the presence of God, but that day in particular is something I know I will carry especially close to my heart for the rest of my life. All in all, this trip showed me that God really is in everything, and to be grateful for all the little things in life. So thank you all so much for making it possible. Thank you.
Good morning. On our first day in Guatemala, we got to meet a class of 4th grade students along with their teacher. Here, the teacher talked to us about schooling in Guatemala, where we learned that education is very scarce, with many people not even knowing how to read or write. To solve this problem, Father Greg, the founder of the Friends of San Lucas Mission, established a free public school that educates more than 600 students from low-income families a year. Here, children in preschool to 6th grade learn math, reading, writing, and more for free. After this talk, each one of us got a beautiful handmade bracelet from a student. In our youth group, I think we all complain about how our classes are too hard, how teachers assign too much homework, or how we don't want to wake up at 6 a.m. to go to school. And then we came to Guatemala, where we learned that people long to have an education like ours. I remember a teacher of mine telling my class once that no matter what someone takes from you, they can never take away your knowledge. So hearing about how so many people don't have access to a basic education was heartbreaking and made us feel so appreciative of having the privilege of a good education. Even though the Friends of San Lucas mission massively impacted the lives and education of children, this is only a small portion of kids who got the benefits of a solution to a large, worldwide problem. And as a part of a church that values education, we must stand to solve this problem every day so we can ensure that children all over the world get to have the privilege and right to an education. Thank you.
Many of us are wearing pants from our trip, so if you wanted to be I have a few thoughts from the week, some random, so bear with me. I liked to watch the youth revel in an evening reflection after full days of physical and emotional work. I liked to drink coffee brewed by a coffee master in the Guatemala mountains in the center of the Mayan universe. I liked to speak, this is going to embarrass probably all the youth, but when we were at the Guatemala coffee factory, I asked Charlotte and Jasmine to drink coffee, and I said, bruh, you have to really try the coffee. It's fire. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sure that was mortifying. Schlepping rocks up a 30-degree incline in very hot temperatures while stepping over barbed wire. It was intense. Reese going back and forth in her usual calm manner, saying, playing 4 hours of tennis in Key Biscayne is easier than this. Hosting a shouting trivia match in the evening because there is absolutely no reason to have a calm trivia contest. They don't know who Bridget Jones is, by the way. Watching everyone's complexions clear and calm and become bright with the cool mist of the mountainside. Looking at construction that is very different than what we see. The risers sometimes are 2 feet and then 10 inches, and some of them didn't even actually fit my foot. It was remarkable. Discussing radical acceptance with Erin and how to embrace it. Eating Takis and drinking orange Fanta for quite a bit of the trip. Amanda, one of my favorite memories is just watching you with your dad to see how much he just loved hanging out with you. Feeling the love. Nikki also had an experience with what they call amoebas. They're not your friends. The day, I think it was a Tuesday, we went to the hospital to visit. The next day, Nikki and I went to the hospital as she was the patient. Was rough, but when we got back home, she particularly felt the love of everybody checking in on her. These memories and more were profound. Profound is the word I like to use. And I could go on, but one of my very, very favorite memories was a conversation with Lindsay. And she said, Katie, how come one of the, I'm not going to call it this person, one of the women in our trip, one of the students wanted to sit with the adults. And Lindsay says, why did she want to sit with her peers? And I go, isn't it interesting how it feels when a strong woman talks to another strong woman? So, Lindsay, thank you. It was wonderful.
Good morning. My name is Amelia, and just like so many others speaking today, I went on the Guatemala trip. This trip truly was the highlight of my summer and probably my favorite experience so far in the youth group. The trip was life-changing, and there were so many amazing moments leading up to a big, important aha moment for me. We did all the things you would expect. We helped people, we did construction work, reflected, built relationships, learned, but what really hit me was our visit to the coffee plantation and the reforestation center. The coffee presentations were super cool. You could see how much they cared about their work there and took pride in their knowledge of the coffee plant. It's not a plantation in the traditional sense. Instead, the missions purchase coffee from locals with small farms and pays them a fair price. They process the coffee and they sell it as Café Wanana. The money made from the sale of the coffee is put back into mission programs, and the frappuccinos they made for us were probably the best I've ever had. But my aha moment came during the Reforestation Center's presentation. I'm very passionate about environmental causes, and I want to go into an environmental career working to advocate and conserve our natural world. The presentation they gave was informative but also moving. The presenter had been working there his whole life, and you could tell that he truly loved it. He talked about the problem with littering and plastic in the environment. He showed us different species that live there and how and when to plant certain plants. All of the issues that seem so much more pressing in a rural area facing extreme poverty and health issues, it impressed me that they were also thinking about these other relevant issues concerning today's communities globally. Further, the presenter reiterated that the problem is global and everyone everywhere has to do their part, no matter how big or how small. I really loved the visit to the Reforestation Center, and it made me realize how I would like to give more of my time working with the San Lucas mission. So my aha moment was deciding I want to go back to Guatemala for a gap year before college. The whole trip was so amazing, and Guatemala is beautiful. It's the perfect place and the perfect mission to do a gap year at. I'm so grateful I got to go on this trip. I may never have discovered the love I have for this place and the need to return without your support and generosity.
I would now like to talk about the relationships we had with the other congregations, the long-term volunteers, and the staff at the mission. We shared every meal with one another, and we had the opportunity to get to know each other. I mainly talked to a couple of kids from a church from Sacramento, but everyone there was extremely welcoming. The staff especially were super friendly and wanted to get to know us more. They even helped us carry the large bags of dirt and rocks up the hill and talk to us while we did the dishes. We were able to organize with the groups from Sacramento a time to go play basketball in the city center. Although the locals were much better than us, we still had so much fun playing together. And then another day, we also were able to play soccer with one another. The staff from the mission and some locals also played with each other. Each team was comprised of a mix of everyone there. This way, instead of staying in our comfort zones and picking a team of people we already knew, we were able to play with people we may have never talked to. By the last couple of days of our stay, we became close with everyone there and even exchanged our Instagrams, allowing everyone to communicate with each other in the future. I also wanted to say a huge thanks to the people who donated to our trip and came to our brunch. And I also wanted to say another huge thanks to the chaperones, because without you guys, it would not have been possible. Thank you.
I had the privilege to accompany the youth as a chaperone for this trip. It was all the things that you've already heard: transformative, life-changing, hard, frustrating, fun. I think what's most important is that the experience was personal for each person that went. Each of us left Guatemala a better person and with a lesson or two to bring home. Generous hospitality. That's a phrase we hear a lot here at Gables UCC, but we saw this in action in San Lucas Toliman. The people of San Lucas welcomed us, whether they were affiliated with the mission or locals living in the small town. We were graced with amazing hospitality from the moment we exited the airport. Love thy neighbor. We are taught that in Matthew 22, in fact, it's a commandment. Who knew? Or Hebrews 13 tells us, do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing so, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. It didn't matter where we were or the time of day. It didn't matter if we were in a large group or just in pairs. We were greeted with various forms of buenas everywhere we went. It didn't matter that there was a language barrier. They lifted their heads, they made eye contact, they smiled and greeted us like we were friends, not strangers. During reflection each night, this came up in one way or another. As we gathered together, far from home, the greetings from strangers were discussed a lot. Some of us barely say hello or good morning to our neighbors, even less so to strangers that we pass in a store or on the sidewalk. It was apparent that all of us were acutely aware of this contrast relatively quickly. This was a lesson many felt the need to bring home with them. Aaron shared a quote during reflection one night, and we had all participated in the charity shopping at this point. And the quote was, "You have to keep breaking your heart until it opens." I think a lot of hearts were opened, even more than they had been before this trip. How could they not? What we saw and experienced was raw, and for many it was the first time for this level of need and extreme poverty. And despite the plight of many of the locals in the area, they were so humble and so grateful and so appreciative for what they had. Over and over, they thanked us for leaving our families to come to them. They thanked us for the help. They thanked us for coming to listen and to learn. They showed us time and time again how much they understood the resources that we used in order to make the trip and what we left behind at home to be with them. If I had to sum up the experience of Guatemala in one lesson, it would be kindness. Kindness is the most powerful, least costly, and most underrated agent of change. We can define kindness as doing what you can, where you are, with what you have. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It's as simple as saying hello or holding a door for a stranger. It makes eye contact. It's intentional. It's powerful. Kindness has the ability to multiply. Kindness has the power to change the world. So, I challenge you, in honor of Guatemala and its people, go out this week and smile and say hello to total strangers.
Vamos todos a la
Friends, on behalf of all of the youth and chaperones that traveled to Guatemala this summer, I want to express our deepest gratitude for the overwhelming support we received from this church and our wider community. Through your generosity, we were able to raise over $22,000 to fund the trip. It is through your generosity and your service and your compassion that this trip was possible and that all of the ministries of this church come alive. So if you would like to give financially to the ministries of this congregation, you can do so electronically through our website, our church app, and there's more information on how to do so in your bulletin. And you can always give with cash or check in the offering plate at the back of the sanctuary. If you would like to serve your community and speak for justice alongside your fellow disciples, we have many opportunities for that as well. Please look through your bulletin, our website, or Lori's Lines, our weekly email, for more upcoming events. And finally, if you are seeking a church home, a faith community to live out God's call of love and justice for all of the world, then we would love for you to consider making this your church home. Please be in touch with Pastor Lori for more information about our upcoming Inquirers events, and her information is on page 12 of your bulletin. Friends, we are so grateful for all of the ways that you give, serve, and belong to this community, for the ways that you show love for your neighbors and all the world. Together, we journey this life together and make it one of joy, peace, and hope. So friends, would you please rise for our sending forth? Stay up here. Friends, these are the words of Guatemalan poet Humberto Acabal. It's called The Prayer. May the door of the sun be opened. May the door of the moon be opened. Let it be clear in the sky. Let it be clear on the earth. Let it be clear in your soul, so that the light does not let the darkness take over, and the markings of our road will remain. Go in peace to serve the Lord. Amen. Amen.
Alleluia.
Amen.